So today I want to talk to you about happiness. Now this is a tricky subject all by itself, because what exactly defines the state of happiness? What is it? Is it a continual state of bliss? Is that what happiness is? Is it getting all that we want? Is that what happiness is? Is it obtaining as much things as possible? Is this where happiness is? What is the state of happiness? And by the way, is it unconditional or is it conditional itself? Each one of us have circumstances where life will meet our hopes and dreams, and we'll have circumstances where life will not measure up to our hopes and dreams. True? Isn't it so?
Yes.
If you only see the negative side, or the dark side, and you only allow yourself excuses, and you rationalize for yourself all the reasons why you can't achieve goals, or all the excuses why you can't be in this state of happiness, you'll never, ever, ever reach your true potential. No excuses. Instead, what I would encourage you to do as you're searching for this state of happiness is to look at life as a continuous adventure. An adventure into the unknown. Because really, this morning, or last night when I went to bed, I wasn't 100% sure. I mean, I was 98% sure, but I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to wake up this morning. Were you guys 100% sure you were going to wake up? Or you probably didn't even consider the thought that maybe last night was your last night. Fortunately, it wasn't, and like I said, I'm happy about that. You know, Oscar Wilde once said that to live is the rarest thing in the world, and most people exist. That is all. That's a pretty powerful statement. Pretty powerful observation. So maybe last night you didn't consider that it could be your last night in your bed. Maybe you didn't consider that last night could have been the last time you ever ate whatever it was that you ate last night. Hopefully it was on the Raven diet, and hopefully it was approved. But if you take the opportunity to embrace your life as a continuous adventure, embrace life as an opportunity, embrace life for exactly what it is, and that is the pursuit of happiness. Most people feel like happiness is just subjective to a particular circumstance. In other words, I'm only going to be happy if I get to eat, I don't know, chili dogs. I'm only going to be happy if I have a Corvette. I'm only going to be happy if this beautiful girl goes out with me. I cannot exist without this person in my life. I'm only going to be happy if I have a relationship with such and such. These are circumstances beyond your control. I'm only going to be happy if this person thinks that I'm a good person. Maybe you consider things such as your status, or things like your havingness. Unfortunately, all of these things, your havingness and other people, your relationships and things like that, are mostly out of your control. What ends up happening is we end up running wild with something called our emotions based on circumstances. We let our emotions control us, yep. We let them run wild and unchecked, leaving our logical mind out in the cold. When this happens, we become slaves to our emotions. We allow events in life to dictate our happiness. And we tend to do this based on how other people treat us, or how other people respond to us, or the things that we can acquire. This is turning us all into slaves. What a horrible state to be in. Pin your happiness on something else or someone else, and you will be stoking an unquenchable flame. The only thing that's actually in our control is our own actions. What we do. We cannot control someone else. And the things that we try to get will simply be gone one day. But we can control our actions, how we respond to things. How can we control another person? Can you control whether or not they like you? You can try to influence them, but you can't control them. You don't have the voodoo mind trick. But you can't control the way you think, though, right? The way you think about things, the way you think about other people, the way you think about experiences. You can control that. That's within your power. So the only thing that is in our control is our own actions. And the same is true for material items. There are people in the world who feel like their havingness is equal to their happiness. Yes.
So, like, for example, that's what I do. So after I go for if I can, I'll go for a walk, and I'll try to focus on myself.
I love that.
So then I can try to find true happiness within me.
That's it, man. That's the only way to do it, is to be happy with yourself. It's not the things that we have, you know. I'm sure you've heard the axiom that states a person who dies with the most toys wins. But that's not true. The person who dies with the most toys still dies. They're still dead. They don't bring you right. It goes to my old saying, you know, I've never seen a hearse followed by a U-Haul truck. You know, take all your stuff with you. The kings and pharaohs and whatnot from Egypt did try to do that. The people who have their stuff now, museums, you know, other things, their stuff was still not with them. You can't take it with you, no matter how hard you try. I mean, I guess you could be buried with it, but you will decay, and you know your gold chain will still be there, and someone will eventually dig it up. Things are impermanent, right? Things are in a temporary, fleeting state. Like consuming ice cream. You have a desire for ice cream, you eat it. A little bit later, you'll still be hungry. We used that analogy before. It's an unquenchable thirst. Well, people tend to think that if I only get this, is that happiness. Is that happiness. If I only have an energy drink right now, I wouldn't be so tired and I'd be happy. When they find out, they just get the jitters and they're not any more awake than they were before.
The energy going, that's what Barry's telling me. The energy, everything that you consume, everything like sugary, just lasts for like a second and then it ruins your diet and it goes away.
It's fleeting, right? It's conditional happiness. Pinning your happiness on something. Let's say drugs, for example. If I just get this one fix, I'll never ask for another one again. If I just do this drug, I'll feel better and I can get back to being sober.
I think you feel worse when you do drugs.
You feel worse. It's fleeting. It's temporary, right? It's a temporary state of instant gratification, you might call it.
That's why I
Commit not to do drugs again. Very important. We don't want to be in that conditional state of happiness. Of course, having things is a natural consequence of living. However, many people suffer because they've become too attached to their things. They want more money, more cars, more rings, and lots of things. Just made that up. They suffer when they don't get them. They suffer. And they suffer when they lose them. I remember when I owned a recording studio many moons ago. What? A different one. I own one now too, but one that was in business for recording musicians. I went in one day with a new client who was going to record. I opened the door. The door was a little ajar, which was definitely weird because I was the only one with the key. And someone had kicked open the door and stole all of my recording gear. Stole it all. Every last little piece of my recording gear was gone. I was devastated. Well, it was the only thing I had going. It was my business at the time, and that's how I made money, so that was devastating. But too, all of my work was gone, and what really bothered me is I had some songs I had set up to work on after my client had left that I had really put some heart and soul into, and it was gone. The songs were gone. I never got them back, ever. Now I did get insurance money. They replaced it. I ended up getting a new studio, and that's a different story. But I will tell you that I suffered. I suffered because of that. Which seems kind of silly to me now, because things just work out the way they're supposed to work out. What I learned is not to be attached to impermanent things. Was I really under the illusion that my recording studio would last forever? And that would make me in a state of perpetual happiness? No. I think I wasn't under that impression, but is it true? No, of course it's not true. How foolish. How foolish of me to think that that is what was making me happy and that's what would keep me happy. Foolish. You know, people would put their hopes on a car or a new home. These things will fade out in your life. I have a friend that just had a house built for him. He's super excited. I don't blame him. I would be too. But it will change. It will decay. That new car smell, that new carpet smell in the house or in the car or wherever, it will become old. It will no longer be that exciting new toy. 10, 20 years later, probably sooner than that for a car, you'll be looking forward to getting a new one. You can't wait to get rid of that old thing. What an old beater. Never pin your happiness on things. Never pin your happiness on impermanent things. when you're no longer attached to the promise of material happiness, and you remain satisfied by yourself alone, you will learn to be fixed in the divine consciousness that leads to eternal liberation. Krishna said that in the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. That was written about 2,300 years ago. I'll say it again. He said to Arjuna, he said, when you are no longer attached by the promises of material happiness, you will remain satisfied by the self alone. You will then be fixed in the divine consciousness that leads to eternal liberation. That's pretty powerful. So just like you said, unconditional happiness actually comes from deep within. And it's impossible to be subject to the elements or other people. Now, that seems a little preposterous when I say that out loud, because you might be thinking to yourself, I don't even want to be that guy who walks around all the time, in jubilation, just like, woo, oh, that guy, very annoying, It's not possible. And anyone who tells you it's possible to be in a perpetual state of joyous bliss is full of it. And the reason why is because, we have emotions, and we will experience emotions, of course. It's natural. It's part of being a human being. But that doesn't mean you can't be in a state of unconditional happiness. That is different than being in a state of jubilation, or this Mr. Positive guy who's probably Mr. Positive, but probably deep down inside is Mr. Unhappy. We see that in people like famous actor Robin Williams. If you ever met Robin Williams or ever saw Robin Williams, he was the most delightful man, and he made everyone laugh. Went out of his way to make people laugh, and his comedy shows were a hit. He had so many wonderful movies that were just hilarious. The guy is hilarious. I used to watch him when I was younger in a TV show called Mork and Mindy, where he played an alien. He's fabulous. I love Robin Williams. But actually, deep down inside, he was very depressed. And he ended up committing suicide. He was rich beyond any of our imaginations. He was famous beyond any of our imaginations. He met presidents, hung out with world leaders, met actresses and actors, hung out with the rich and famous, had mansions, had cars, had all the things he could possibly want. He didn't want for anything, and his children will never want for anything. His family will never want for anything ever again. But he was not happy. Deep down inside, he wasn't happy with himself. It was conditional happy that he was. Is it possible to have unconditional happiness? Well, try not to botch this name. Dr. Usui, the founder of Reiki, once encouraged his students to choose to be happy in this moment and let the next moment take care of itself. You see, remember what I said the only thing that you can control is you. That means one of your superpowers can be choosing just right now to be happy. You don't have to have a particular reason, like a new car or a new pair of shoes. You can just choose that just right now, just in this moment, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to be happy. And don't worry about the next moment. Let that worry about itself when it gets here. But just for right now, choose to be happy. And you might say to yourself, well, what do I have to be happy about? Well, if you were happy, what would you be happy about? What are some of the things that you would be happy about? Your family. Okay? If you still have family alive and they love you, be happy. What else?
I think sometimes I take for granted that my friend would be on
Your friends?
my friend would be on. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say his name, but
A good friend.
yeah, my best friend. But I think sometimes I think I do have attachment issues. So I think about him all the time, and I take that for granted. But then then it's just selfless to me. I think I wish it was. I think it was my fault that he died, but at the same time, I think that that he was like really depressed when he died.
And that's an issue we'll talk about there. We'll dig into that a little bit after the lecture. But what you said was potent. You said friends. And yeah, friends could be a source of your happiness right now, but don't be attached, because friends can also be fleeting. So can family, by the way, because we have something in our world called death. It can take people away from us. And we will suffer when that happens, certainly. So, define the state of happiness right now. If you were going to be happy right now, could you find something?
Yeah, I think you have to like focus on something like you said to me. Focus on objects, but like look at that object, try to be in the moment. And that's what I'm trying to do.
The moment. That's right. The moment is the only thing that's real. It's the only thing that we actually have is right here. So what if you chose just right now, just in this moment, you chose happiness?
Like what I do is don't think about anything else except this moment.
Exactly, because when you are pinning it on, let's say, a new pair of shoes, that's fleeting. But this moment right here is all that really matters. And if you just choose happiness now, for no other reason other than happiness, how would that change your life? How would it change your life if you just decided right now?
I think it would make us like be grateful for the things we have instead of taking out for granted.
Yeah. I mean, that's why people come to learn from people like me, because they're looking for the playbook on how to be happy. They're looking for the way to find themselves, to find happiness. And really, that's a lot of soul searching there. It's a lot of deep diving into yourself, a lot of self-discovery. Remember when I started this lecture, I said, it's the pursuit. It's the pursuit. I would go a little step further than saying it's just the pursuit of happiness. I will say the pursuit is the happiness. The pursuit is the happiness. It reminds me of a surfer or someone out in the middle of the ocean. The ocean of emotion. I mean, emotions is one of the main culprits of our unhappiness. And that's why I'm saying it's impossible for you to be in this blissful state of joyous ecstasy nonstop, because you have no control over the elements around you. Now, you could still be happy, but jubilant, probably not. You can be happy, but you will feel those emotions. You have no choice, because it's just the chemicals in your brain. It's the chemicals in your gut that are making you feel those ways. Well, what can we do about that? I mean,
Be healthy.
yeah, you can change your diet. You can eat healthy. We can change our chemicals the best we can, control that the best we can. We can in some ways control our body through our diet and what we're eating. You can work out, you can release different chemicals, dopamine and whatnot in your system. And you know, like a person in the ocean itself, if you turn your back to the waves, what happens? Yeah, they smash and crash and dash you and bash you and all kinds of stuff. Just turning your back to your emotions, same thing. Boom, they can overwhelm you, pull you into the undertow. They can drown you, not let you go. You could choose another way though. You could be the swimmer. Waves coming up, you see it, getting ready to crash on you, you dive deep into that wave. Sometimes you have to be the swimmer, right? Sometimes we have to dig deep. We have to look deep and see where that's coming, looking all into the bottom of the ocean there, see what's underneath there. Sometimes that's okay. We can't stay there though. We can't stay inside that wave, because what would happen if we stayed inside the wave? We're gonna die, right? You can't breathe. You can't see what's around you. It's just buried deep inside your emotions. And some people, especially nowadays, are the swimmer more than anything else, because they don't just get control of their emotions. They're underneath there and they're just staying there. They're just moving into the undertow back and forth. They're just in a world of ocean of emotion and just beating them around left and right. There is another way though, the way that I prefer, and that's the way of the surfer. The surfer, yeah. You could choose to be a surfer and ride the waves. See, the surfer sees the wave coming up. It even feels the swell. So he swims up to the top of the wave, catches it, and just hits that perfect wave. And now he's riding it. The cool thing about being a surfer is not only is your balance sort of under your control, but your ride movements are under your control. And not only that, but now you can see the shore and you can see the horizon. You can see everything around you. The surfer is in somewhat of control. He's riding the wave. He's riding the wave. He's not like the swimmer buried deep inside. He's not the person who puts his back to his waves either. He gets crashed, bashed, and dashed. No, he's riding it. He's riding it. The eye's still on the shoreline. The horizon at his back. Controlling his ride. See, if you choose to ride like the surfer, you can ride your emotions and control them. Learn to control them. Now, you weren't just born being a surfer. You're not just going to be born knowing how to control your emotions either. But those emotions are the key, because if you can control them, you can control your thinking. If you can control your thinking, you can control your perception. And if you can control your perception, then you can choose if you're happy or not. But if you can't control your emotions, and you're like the person with the back on the waves, you're crashed, bashed, and dashed, and turned all around and trashed, then you are giving in to the emotions. They are the master. You are a slave to where they want you to go. You cannot control yourself. Or if you choose to just be the swimmer, digging deep and down, and you're just emotional all the time, again, once more, you're the slave, because now you're trapped perhaps in the undertow, or you have to keep coming up for air. You have to keep trying to survive. You're digging down deep and barely making it through the waves. Again, still the slaves. But I'm telling you, you can free the slaves. You can free the slaves by being the surfer. The surfer rides the wave. It takes a little time to learn how to be an expert surfer, so don't beat yourself up. Plenty of people in the world would like to do that for you anyway. You have the opportunity to be the surfer in the ocean of emotion. Unconditional happiness is the surfer riding the waves and enjoying the ride. Sure, the waves are happening, but the waves are where the fun's at. Without the waves, no fun. Now, wouldn't be very fun to be a surfer with no waves. The waves could be all kinds of things. You can use the waves as another analogy. You could say the waves are your troubles in life. Turn your back to your troubles in life and they will crash on you. Dig too deep into your troubles in life and you'll get pulled under the undertow. You'll just keep going down. You'll drown in your problems. Ride the waves. Now that's fun. Sure, a little dangerous sometimes. Sure, takes a little work, a little effort. But the fun is in the ride. The fun is in the pursuit. Whoa, eureka. The pursuit is happiness. Yes, it's impossible to walk around like a blissful, joyous person 24 hours a day. That's just plain unrealistic. Because there's emotions, there's problems. And they're like waves. And I'm here to tell you that's a good thing. Because the surf's up, Big Kahuna. Surf's up. So if you want to be happy, choose it. Ride the waves. Find a little fun in it. Because happiness is the pursuit. It is riding the waves. Okay?